Hello and welcome. I'm Ed O'Farrell, and this is a Real Assets Advisor Hot Minute. Today, we're going to spend a hot minute or so with Will Sterling. Will is a partner and the Chief Investment Officer at TritonPoint Wealth. TritonPoint Wealth is based in the Washington, D.C. metro area, overseeing approximately $1.8 billion of client assets. Welcome, Will.
Thanks, Ed.
Will, you ready for a hot minute?
Let's go.
All right, let's go. Hometown of where you currently reside.
Plymouth, New Hampshire. I live in Maryland, right outside Washington, D.C.
All right, alma mater and college major.
The George Washington University, political science and business.
First job as a kid.
I mowed lawns when I was 9 or 10 years old. Did a good job in my neighborhood for those 4 or 5 different houses. Some might even argue a monopoly.
All right, first job as a professional.
I was hired into the Morgan Stanley fixed income sales and trading analyst program up in New York City.
Okay. How do you think about the use of real assets or alternative investments at TritonPoint client portfolios?
So we start by thinking about them in one of 4 different categories: absolute return, real assets, private credit, and private equity. Each of those do one of really 2 things in the context from a portfolio construction. They're either really good at return enhancement or alpha generation, or adding portfolio level diversification. We also think about them in terms of the asset classes and the sub asset classes. And then even going further, the benefit also, in addition to just portfolio diversification or alpha generation, can be they're really good at solving client specific outcomes. So tax deferral being one, income generation. So we think about those in the context of the individual client. From there, in terms of implementation, we spend a lot of time. There's been such a democratization of the products beyond just your quintessential historical vintage 3C7 drawdown strategies, that we think about them in terms of which is the right rate wrapper, whether it be a more perpetual vehicle, a ticker traded vehicle, or a vintage drawdown structure for which asset class. And we have a really strong viewpoint. So trying to do all of that and at the end of the day, bring a really simplified approach to our clients to not add enormous complexity, even though we know we have to bring them the best solutions that add value to the portfolio.
Okay. Worst investment advice you've ever been on the receiving end of?
So it's not terrible advice, but I would argue it's often applied terribly, and that is valuation drives returns. That is absolutely true over the longer term, but matters much less over the short term. And in my career, being early or late is the same as being wrong.
Okay. When it comes to wealth managers, there's no shortage of choices for high net worth individuals and families. Why do you believe they should consider TritonPoint?
Agreed. It oftentimes seems like the sea of sameness when you're talking about the private wealth channel. And I would point to a few things that I hear from our clients often about what differentiates us versus some of our peers. The first is our boutique attention, but institutional level caliber expertise. And so we have a really approach that is very high touch, hands on with our clients, but it has expertise in both financial planning, expertise in investment management. And I think sometimes that can be differentiating because it isn't one or the other. The second is deep expertise in the complex. So whether we're talking about a single asset, private market vehicle, or generational wealth transfer strategies, business and succession planning, charitable giving, and structures around that, the more complex it is, I think that we can show up really well for our clients and assist them with whatever they're trying to achieve for their goals. And then the third is I've now worked at large firms and I've worked at smaller firms or in the independent space. And I truly believe that the independent registered investment advisory, acting as a fiduciary with our clients, is the best ability to bring them unconflicted advice and solve their needs. So the best that we can do for them.
Okay. Talent or useless talent you possess that most folks don't know you have.
So I like to believe I have a talent for absorbing complex ideas, but I've also been told a time or two, Ed, that I have a knack for boring people at moments. So perhaps those are connected.
All right. One person, dead or alive, who isn't a family member, you'd most like to have dinner with.
Yeah, I would choose Jim Simons with Renaissance Technologies. I just think he was so secretive and extremely brilliant. I just think he's such a fascinating individual. He was a mathematician that did work that had such an application to physics, arguably the best moneymaker in the history of finance. And then, he was competitive, and the whole concept of ideating the firm that he built with Renaissance is just really impressive. I think because there's so little known about him, just the ability to have a conversation with him would be exceptional.
Okay. At what restaurant would you choose to have said dinner at, and what would you order?
But I would choose Grant Achatz Restaurant Alinea in Chicago. So I don't know whether or not Jim would like it or not. I because he's pretty secretive. I'd hope that he would appreciate the innovative nature that Chef Achatz has, and in the same way he applied, what he did to Renaissance Technologies. In terms of what we would eat, it's a 15 to 20 course prefix menu, so you don't really get a lot of choice in terms of what you want. But I will say one of the best meals I've had, one of the best bites, is the black truffle explosion, and so I hope that would be on the menu that evening.
The Black Truffle Explosion. Sounds pretty good. You can connect with Will directly on LinkedIn. And for more information on Triton Point Wealth, you can visit TritonPointWealth.com. On behalf of the team here at Real Assets Advisor, thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next time.